Hi, this is Chris from abarabove.com, and today we're going to check back on that infusion we started a couple weeks ago. So for those of you that missed the first episode, I'll just kind of recap what we've done so far. So in this jar, we have about 1.75 liters of vodka, the skins of 15 lemons, and essentially that's about it. I've stirred it every day for the last 2 weeks. I've kept it in a nice dark environment, and just kind of let it hang out. So today we're going to strain all this out, and we're also going to talk about some of the theories and the general technique behind infusions. So now that we're going to put everything in the glass container, let's take a look what's going to happen once it gets in there. On your left, you have the fruit that you're going to be utilizing, and on the right, you have your alcohol in your container. So we're going to add all these ingredients to get into the glass container. And now that it's steeping in the alcohol, all the essence of the fruit is going to escape the fruit and go into the alcohol. So all the oils, all the sugars, and any of the juices that are left over, they're going to try and make their way into the alcohol. And when that happens, the alcohol is going to rush in and fill up the rest of the fruit with the alcohol. So this process will continue to happen until what you're left with is boozy fruit and fruity booze. And like I said, it's going to go to a point of equilibrium, so that way the fruit that's left over will have the same alcohol as the alcohol that you want to use, and the alcohol will have the same amount of fruit essence, the oils and the sugars and the juice, as the leftover fruit as well. So they'll reach that state of equilibrium. Now in a previous video on infusions, we mentioned that you should stir the infusion daily and also keep it in a dark place. Now the reason why you're going to want to stir this is if you don't, one of the things I've noticed in the past is if I leave it, the infusion for a few days, come back and stir it, it actually creates a swirl of sugars and juices around it. So what's happening there is around the perimeter of, let's say, this lemon zest here, the materials on both sides of the lemon zest are exactly the same. So the lemon essence inside the lemon is the same as the essence of the lemon on the outside of it within a vodka in a very small area. And then once you stir it, it introduces vodka into that localized area, and now the extraction can happen again. Now the reason why you want to keep it in a dark place is you don't want these chemicals that you're extracting to start to break down. You have a lot of oils in there, you have a lot of sugars, you have a lot of other compounds, and if they hit sunlight, they're going to start to deteriorate. So you want to preserve the freshness and the vibrancy of your infusion. So now let's examine something else that's going to have an impact on the rate of infusion for you, and that is just general surface area. So to make this easy to explain, let's take this simple cube of fruit that we have here. And the way you're going to calculate surface area is just measure out all the sides, add them all up, and that's essentially going to be your surface area. So for this we have 2 inches wide by 2 inches long and 2 inches high. And your total surface area for this, for each side, is going to be 24 inches squared. Now, to increase the amount of surface area that we have, a simple way to do that is just to cut it right down the center. And what that's going to do is it's going to expose that center that was previously sealed together and increase the amount of surface area that we have infusing. So the new surface area that we have is 32 inches squared. Now if you look at the two pieces, the 32 inches squared gives us a lot more surface area for the alcohol to interact with the infused material, and what's going to happen is the extraction is going to be a lot faster. So the amount of surface area that we have increased just by that one simple cut is 33%. So let's take a better look at our example here. So we're infusing lemon peels into into vodka, and the thickness of lemon peels it's not very thick at all. So can't really cut it in half lengthwise, and even if you did it on the width, it doesn't really expose a lot more of the surface area here. Now we could do even a smaller cut to it, a julienne or a small dice, but it's not going to really add a lot to the overall essence of the infusion. A little bit this will start to add up after time, but an easier way to go about this is simply just to add more material. So in this case, adding more lemon zest will make the infusion happen faster. So here's an example of by adding more material to it, it cuts down the time from 3 days with 1 lemon to 1 day with 3 lemon skins. And it achieves the same goal. Now, let's take a look at if we hold all the other things constant. So let's say we have the 1 lemon for 5 days, or we have the 3 lemons for 5 days. The overall lemon quality and the lemon flavor is going to be much more pronounced at the end of the 5 days. Now, just to make it simple, the amount of flavor that you can extract from a material is going to be much higher the mass of the product is. So very simply, the more lemons you're going to put in this, the higher the extraction, the more of the lemonification is going to happen. Now, a few things to keep in mind while you're monitoring your infusion. The first thing is the color. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the infusion that we started a couple weeks ago. And now on the right-hand side, you'll see the infusion where it is now. And it's only been a matter of 2 weeks or so, but the color is finally reached that point where I want, kind of that nice rich golden color, and it's definitely extracted the flavor and the color that I want. Now, one of the other things to consider while you're monitoring your infusion is the overall aroma of it. So you should be able to smell the essence of what you're infusing pretty immediately, and it definitely smells like lemon oil and lemon zest right away. Now, one of the other things that you should keep in mind and be monitoring daily is just the overall viscosity of it. Now, I look inside this infusion jar, I could see the lemon oils kind of coalescing on top of the surface there, and I know that's extracting a lot of the lemon oil from the peels, so I know that it's doing its job and doing its work. The last thing, obviously, that you're going to want to do is taste your infusion. You're going to want to taste this daily because some of these infusions can go pretty quick. So every time you stir, you should be tasting your infusion just to kind of get a general idea of where it's headed. So we're going to taste this final batch right now and make sure that it's kind of where we want it to be. So right away I'm smelling the lemon before I'm even tasting it, which is going to be great when it goes to a final cocktail. Now the lemon is balancing out the vodka and rounding it out nicely, and the flavor goes on quite some time. I'm actually still tasting the lemon, and it's just kind of still hanging on, so it's definitely nice and rich and kind of where I want the extraction to be. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one finished. Now that we're doing infusions, I highly recommend you take detailed notes. This is some of the things that I wish I would have done earlier in my bartending career, is take better notes on infusions. So some of the information that I would write down is when did I start the infusion and when did I end it. So for example, January 1st to January 15th. Also, the information I would put in there would be what type of alcohol did I use, what brand, how much of it, what was the proof on it. So you want to get as specific as possible. Not only that, but I have 15 lemons in this jar. I would actually write down the weight of the lemon zest that I put in there. 15 lemons can be of different sizes, so I would actually write down the weight of the lemon skins that I put into the infusion jar there. And the idea is that you want to be able to replicate this recipe over and over again. So the more information you have, the better. Now, one of the other things is if you work if you're infusing in an environment with very drastic temperature changes, I'd write down the average temperature to the best of your ability and put that in your notes as well. Now, if you go to abarabove.com, and if you're on abarabove.com, you'll see at the very bottom of the screen I've included a link to some notes that I like to use when I'm doing infusions. And if you're on YouTube, I recommend going to abarabove.com and looking up infusions. I'll put a link at the bottom of this video. Now, there's always, if you look in those notes, you'll see an area in there that is dedicated to what would I do better or what would I do differently. And the reasoning behind it is once you filter this infusion out, that's it. That's all you get to do with it. So you'll get hands-on with this. You'll start to create cocktails with this infusion, and this is where that area is going to be valuable. So let's say you start making your cocktails, and the lemon essence is 25% too much. you're just tasting way too much lemon. So in your notes you would say reduce lemon essence by 25% or increase it by 25%, whatever you're going for. Some of the other things you might want to put in there is, what would I wish I would have, how can I modify it? If you want to add a herbal note to it, maybe you add lemongrass or lemon thyme to your infusion. So the idea is that every time you make these notes and every time you get hands-on with this infusion, that it becomes better and better and better and more refined. So at the end of the day, you have a really amazing infusion that you can take no matter where you go. So infusions, as I said before in the first episode, is a building block to mixology. The concepts that we're learning now are going to be very valuable as we move through our career and become better and more skilled at what we do. So for example, what I'm going to do now that I have this lemon infusion is I'm going to drain this out, separate it from the solids, and make a liqueur out of it. So I'm going to actually transform this into limoncello. And I'll show you how to do that later, and definitely stay tuned for that. But some other examples as we progress through our development here is infusions can definitely be related to creating your own bitters, creating your own tinctures, creating your own amaros. These are all concepts that rely heavily on the knowledge that we gain here in infusions. So this is a very valuable concept to know. The details and the notes that we're taking now are just great practice to get in the habit of. So like I said, I highly recommend that you take as detailed notes as possible. So stay tuned. We're going to keep you posted, and we're going to learn as much as we can together. And I just got to say, I'm very thankful that you guys are watching, and I'm very, very happy to give you as much information as I can. So have a great shift. Cheers, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Google+, or visit us at abarabove.com.